For much of your life, walking into a bank might have felt like stepping into a safe space. The faces were familiar, the conversations straightforward, and the sense of security was almost automatic. You trusted, and for good reason. Banks were once built around relationships as much as around money. But as the years pass, something subtle begins to shift. Not in you, but in the system itself. The paperwork grows denser, the terms more tangled, the decisions more rushed. And while you may still carry that natural trust, the world on the other side of the counter no longer operates in the same spirit. It isn't about intelligence or ability, far from it. In fact, with age comes a wisdom and clarity that can see through things younger people often miss. But there's also a new kind of vulnerability that appears, almost quietly, like a shadow at the edge of your awareness. It's the vulnerability of wanting peace rather than conflict, of preferring to nod rather than argue, of carrying the fatigue that comes from years of responsibilities. It's not weakness, it's simply the body and soul saying, "You've worked enough, you deserve ease now." Yet banks, in their own quiet way, often take advantage of that desire for ease. Have you noticed how much smaller the print has become? How the friendly smiles are paired with endless signatures on documents you barely have time to process? It's not because you've lost the sharpness you once had. It's because the system is designed to move faster, while you've learned the wisdom of slowing down. And there lies the tension, your pace, which is gentle and steady, against theirs, which is hurried and complex. Isn't it strange how life flips like that? In your younger years, you may have rushed, skipped details, taken risks, and the bank was there to steady you. Now you long for steadiness, but the bank throws in confusion. It almost feels like a betrayal of trust, doesn't it? And yet, there's power in simply recognizing the shift. When you see it clearly, you can choose how to meet it. Perhaps you pause longer before signing. Perhaps you ask one more question, even if it feels inconvenient. Perhaps you bring someone you trust, not because you can't handle it, but because two sets of eyes are always better than one. There's nothing shameful about that. It's just another form of wisdom, sharing the burden so you can preserve your peace. And I want to gently ask you, how do you feel when you sit across from a banker these days? Do you still feel safe, or do you sense that little knot in your stomach that says, something's not being said here? It's worth listening to that feeling. It's your years speaking to you, reminding you that you've learned to sense when things don't line up. That's not paranoia, that's experience whispering its truth. Before we move any further, I'd truly love to know something simple from you. Where are you right now as you're listening to these words? Which city or country do you call home? Share it in the comments below. You might be surprised how comforting it feels to see the names of places and realize you're part of a much larger circle of people who are walking this same path, each of us seeking clarity and protection together. Helen was 74 when she noticed something strange on her bank statement. Or rather, it wasn't Helen who noticed, it was her grandson, Daniel. He had stopped by to help her set up online banking, something she had always avoided because she trusted the paper statements that came in the mail. As they scrolled through the transactions, Daniel frowned. "Grandma, do you realize they're charging you $18 every single month just to keep this account open?" Helen was shocked. For years, she had assumed her checking account was free, just like it had always been. But somewhere along the line, without much explanation, the bank had quietly shifted her account type. That small monthly drain had already added up to hundreds of dollars she never meant to spend. Helen felt embarrassed at first. How could she have missed it? But embarrassment wasn't necessary. The truth is, banks count on the fact that most people, especially seniors who prefer stability, won't question small amounts. And what starts as a maintenance fee of a few dollars becomes a steady leak that eats away at savings built over a lifetime. You might be nodding right now, remembering a similar situation. Maybe you've caught a small fee once or twice and let it slide because it didn't feel worth the energy to confront. But those tiny leaks are like cracks in a dam. They grow and they matter more than we think. There's no shame in missing them. Life is full, your attention is pulled in many directions, and the banks design it this way. What matters is not blame, but awareness. So let's talk about how you can gently but firmly take back control. The first step is to ask your bank for a printed list of every single fee attached to your accounts. Don't rely on brochures or websites, they change too often. Ask for it in writing so you can sit with it at your own pace. The second step is to ask a very simple question, one that Helen eventually learned to ask. Do you offer a senior-friendly account with no monthly fees? Often the answer is yes, but banks rarely bring it up on their own because those accounts don't earn them money. The third step is to review your statements regularly, ideally once a month. You don't need to study every number, but simply circle or highlight anything that looks unfamiliar. This small habit is a shield. It gives you a moment to pause before unnoticed patterns grow into losses. And if this feels tiring, consider inviting a trusted family member or friend into the process, not because you can't handle it, but because there is strength in shared responsibility. Aging is not about carrying everything alone, it's about learning when to let others stand beside you. You may be thinking, do I really need to bother? It's just a few dollars. But here's the gentle truth. Those dollars are yours. You worked for them. You saved them. And each dollar carries the story of your effort, your sacrifices, your wisdom. Why should anyone take them without your clear permission? This is not about being aggressive or confrontational. It's about quiet self-respect. About saying, I see what's happening here, and I choose to protect myself. Sometimes that choice is as simple as changing an account type or closing one you no longer need. Sometimes it's moving to a credit union or smaller bank that values people over profit. The point is not where you bank, but that you feel secure and honored in the relationship. Let me ask you gently, when was the last time you sat down with your statement and really looked at it, line by line, without rushing? Did you feel clarity, or did you feel frustration? If it was frustration, perhaps that's your inner wisdom nudging you that something deserves attention. Take that nudge seriously. It's a form of self-care, no different from eating well or seeing your doctor. And if you find yourself feeling overwhelmed, remember Helen. She felt the same at first, but once she took those simple steps, she not only saved money, but regained a sense of calm. She realized that being in her 70s didn't mean being at the mercy of the system. It meant using her lifetime of experience to ask better questions, to move a little slower, to demand respect in the gentlest but firmest way. If this story resonates with you, and if you'd like to continue receiving gentle guidance on the many ways you can stay protected and at peace, I encourage you to subscribe. That way you'll never miss the next conversation, and together we can keep exploring the small, steady changes that make life in these later years not just safer, but more peaceful. They use urgency as a tool, knowing that a pressured mind is more likely to agree. Imagine someone waving a bright, glittering object in front of you while quietly slipping extra conditions underneath. The mind, especially a trusting one, latches onto the glitter and overlooks the shadows. Have you ever felt that tug, that subtle push to act now or miss out? If you have, you're not alone. Many people of every age experience it. But for older adults, the effect is stronger because our natural inclination is to respect authority, to assume that someone in a suit sitting across the desk has our best interests at heart. That trust, which once served you so well, can sometimes become the very thing that's exploited. And here's where gentle awareness can protect you. When you hear words like special, limited, or only today, let that be a signal. Instead of reacting quickly, pause. Remind yourself, if this offer is truly good, it will still be good tomorrow, or next week, or even next month. Banks use urgency because they know that with time, clarity grows. And once clarity grows, many people say no. What would it feel like to give yourself that time, to say, without guilt, I'll need to think this over? There is strength in those words. They place you back in control, where you belong.
The brain at 70, 80, or beyond may take longer to evaluate, but it also sees connections, patterns, and risks that a younger mind might overlook. That slower pace is not a weakness, it's a deeper form of wisdom. So perhaps the real question is, are you giving yourself permission to honor your pace, or are you letting someone else dictate it? If you've ever walked away from a meeting at the bank with a nagging feeling in your chest, unsure if you agreed to something you didn't fully understand, that was your intuition speaking. It's not too late to listen to it. You can always go back, ask for clarification, or even cancel something that doesn't feel right. You are not locked in just because you once said yes under pressure. And even if the bank tries to make you feel otherwise, remember, it is your money, your life, your pace. There's no shame in slowing down, no shame in saying no, and no shame in asking for time. In fact, that may be one of the most powerful choices you can make. Gentle protection begins not with fighting, but with awareness. When urgency knocks at your door, let it be a reminder to breathe, to pause, to reclaim the wisdom of patience that life has been teaching you all along. It often begins with what seems like a harmless suggestion. A banker leaning forward, lowering their voice as though sharing a secret, and saying, "Have you considered adding this product to your account? It will give you more security." The words are chosen carefully. Security, protection, peace of mind. Who wouldn't want that, especially when you've spent a lifetime building something worth protecting? And yet, so often, the product itself is unnecessary.
A credit card you don't need, an insurance policy that duplicates what you already have, an investment designed more for their profit than your benefit. What makes these moments difficult is not the product itself, but the pressure that accompanies it. The gentle insistence, the reassuring smile, the way they make it sound like refusing would be unwise, almost irresponsible. This is where your inner wisdom becomes your greatest ally. There is a very simple phrase you can carry with you, like a shield. I need to review this at home first. These words are powerful because they buy you time. They interrupt the pressure and return control to you. At home, in your own chair, with a cup of tea in hand, you can look over the details slowly, in peace, without the weight of someone waiting for your signature. Another small but effective step is to bring someone you trust to these conversations. Not because you are incapable, far from it, but because two sets of ears catch more than one, and sometimes it helps to simply have a witness. A daughter, a nephew, a trusted friend. Their presence can ease the pressure, giving you space to breathe. You might also consider asking direct questions, even if they feel uncomfortable. For example, is this product truly necessary for me at my age, or is it optional? It may surprise you how often the answer, hidden behind layers of sales language, is simply optional. And there is no shame in saying no to something optional. Think about it for a moment. How many things in life have you already learned to release as you've grown older? Maybe it was possessions, maybe commitments, maybe the need to please everyone around you. Saying no to an unnecessary product is just another way of practicing that same wisdom, the wisdom of letting go of what does not serve you. Remember, protecting your money is not just about numbers. It's about protecting your energy, your peace of mind, the gentle rhythm of your days. You've earned the right to say no, to slow down, to demand clarity. You don't need to justify that to anyone. Let me ask you softly, when was the last time you walked out of a bank meeting feeling calm and certain, rather than pressured or uneasy? If that calm hasn't been there, perhaps it's time to change the way you engage, not by resisting with anger, but by responding with patience and steady boundaries. The truth is, banks thrive on speed and compliance, but you thrive on clarity and choice. There is no conflict in that, only the reminder that you are not obligated to move at their pace. You are allowed to pause, to ask, to reflect. Each time you do, you protect not just your savings, but your dignity. And with every gentle no spoken in your own voice, you reaffirm something essential, that your well-being comes before their sales.
That is the kind of quiet strength that grows with age, the kind that doesn't need to shout because it is rooted in a lifetime of knowing what really matters.
There is a common belief whispered in society, one that says older people cannot manage money well anymore. But that is not the truth. The reality is much simpler and also more gentle. Banks and financial institutions design their systems to move at great speed, and speed is not always a friend to those who value thoughtfulness. Quick signatures, rushed conversations, stacks of papers slid across a desk with a pen waiting, these things create pressure. And under pressure, even the sharpest mind can falter, no matter the age. When you add in the natural fatigue that sometimes accompanies later years, or the occasional moment when memory doesn't serve as instantly as it once did, it's easy to see how banks can take advantage without you even realizing it. But here is something important to remember. A pause is powerful. You don't have to sign anything in the moment it is presented to you. In fact, one of the most protective habits you can build is simply to say, "I'll need to take this home and look it over." Those words are like a shield. They stop the momentum of pressure and create space for clarity. Imagine sitting at your kitchen table, the papers spread out before you, a cup of tea by your side. No rushing voices, no hurried glances at the clock, just you and the documents at your own pace. In that calm, things look very different. What seemed urgent becomes manageable. What seemed confusing begins to untangle. Another gentle practice is to carry a small notebook with you whenever you go to the bank. Write down what is said, even in simple words. Later, when your energy is stronger, you can revisit those notes and see if everything still makes sense. It may feel unnecessary at first, but that little notebook can save you from agreeing to something you didn't intend. There's also wisdom in scheduling these appointments at times when you feel your best. Many people notice that mornings bring clearer thinking, while afternoons may bring fatigue. Why not honor that? Choose times that align with your natural rhythm, so you walk into the meeting steady and alert. Some people worry that these steps make them appear difficult, or that they will inconvenience the banker. But you must ask yourself, whose well-being matters more in that room, yours or the institution's? You've spent decades making decisions, building a life, carrying responsibilities. Now is the time to make choices that protect your peace, not to prove your speed. One man I once spoke with, Robert, age 81, shared how he used to sign papers quickly just to be polite. But after finding himself locked into a service he didn't need, he changed. Now, he always tells the banker he must think things over at home. At first, he worried they would see him as stubborn, but instead, he found that most simply nodded, and the few who resisted confirmed his suspicion that the product wasn't right for him anyway. There's also wisdom in scheduling these appointments at times when you feel your best. Many people notice that mornings bring clearer thinking, while afternoons may bring fatigue. Why not honor that? Choose times that align with your natural rhythm, so you walk into the meeting steady and alert. Some people worry that these steps make them appear difficult, or that they will inconvenience the banker. But you must ask yourself, whose well-being matters more in that room, yours or the institution's? You've spent decades making decisions, building a life, carrying responsibilities. Now is the time to make choices that protect your peace, not to prove your speed. One man I once spoke with, Robert, age 81, shared how he used to sign papers quickly just to be polite. But after finding himself locked into a service he didn't need, he changed. Now, he always tells the banker he must think things over at home. At first, he worried they would see him as stubborn, but instead, he found that most simply nodded, and the few who resisted confirmed his suspicion that the product wasn't right for him anyway. He told me with a smile that he now leaves the bank with his shoulders lighter, not heavier. That's the gift of patience. You not only protect your money, you protect your heart. Perhaps you've had moments of forgetting details, of walking away uncertain if you understood everything you agreed to. That doesn't mean you failed. It simply means the system is not designed for your pace. And that's all right. You are free to slow it down. You've earned that right through years of living and learning. Aging is not about losing strength. It is about embracing a gentler rhythm that honors your needs. When you choose to pause, to write, to schedule wisely, you are not resisting change, you are adapting to it with grace. If you've ever felt pressured into a rushed decision, know that you are not alone. Many have stood in your shoes. Many have walked out of those same glass doors carrying quiet regrets. But today, you can decide differently. You can claim the time, the space, and the care you deserve. And if you found these thoughts helpful, I encourage you to stay with this community by subscribing. Together, we can keep uncovering the little ways to stay safe and steady in a world that moves too quickly. And I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever felt pressured to sign something at the bank only to realize later it wasn't what you truly wanted? Share your story in the comments. You might be surprised how many others nod and say, "Yes, I've been there too."